When my grandmother passed away last year at 100 years old, I sat with the truth of her life and her legacy. Aside from being a wife, a passionate teacher, a mother of 5, a grandmother of 22, and a great-grandmother of 17, what really struck me was how she thrived. No chronic illnesses, no prescription pills, no confusion about what to eat. She ate from the land, she cooked from home. She trusted what she knew, wisdom passed on from generations before her. Her quality of life got me thinking, when did something as basic as eating become so complicated? We're living in a time where chronic preventable diseases like heart disease, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, and inflammation, they've just become the new norm. We blame genetics, we blame age. We say, well, that's just how life is right now. Meanwhile, we stay searching on the hunt for the next fix, the next diet, the next program, the next pill. But what if the answer to our global health epidemic is not something new? What if it's something we've always known? You see, our ancestors, they did not count calories, they didn't track macros, they didn't obsess over carbs or keto. They just ate real food. They trusted food, they respected it, because food was so much more than eating. Food was medicine. Food was survival. Food was sacred. But somewhere along the way, we lost that. We traded that wisdom for convenience. We went from slow, home-cooked healing meals to fast, ultra-processed, nutrient-stripped food that is stripping us from our energy, robbing us from our vitality. I know it because I lived it. So I grew up in Kingston, Jamaica, in a Rastafari household where food came straight from the earth. It wasn't labeled organic, it just was. We ate fruits from the tree, greens from the ground, dishes rooted in culture, passed on from generations before me. And I was energized, active, and I just thrived. When I was 18 years old, I left Jamaica and I went to live in Norway for 2 years. And it was an incredible, amazing, life-changing experience, but I also really struggled. I struggled being very far away from my close-knit family. Of course, coming from Jamaica, I struggled with the cold and the dark days without sunlight and the rigor of school. But what really was a challenge for me was food. Food that had once been prepared for me with love and intention now became something I had to figure out for myself. And let's just say I failed. My biggest mistake was that I turned to food for comfort. The type of food that many of us reach for when we are overwhelmed, when we're lonely, when we're stressed out. I craved anything high in sugar, salt, and fat. The problem with this type of food is just how addictive it is. And before even realizing it, I didn't just gain weight, and a lot of weight. I also lost a part of myself. My energy plummeted, my digestion was a mess, my mental clarity gone. I looked in the mirror and I saw someone exhausted, foggy, and just emotionally depleted. I wasn't just carrying extra weight, I was carrying a loss of connection. Not just to myself, but to the food that I was raised on, to the food that generations before me were healed on. After years of suffering, I became a pre-diabetic. I struggled with depression and an eating disorder and chased every new diet trend on the market. I finally hit a low, so low, that there was nothing else for me to lose. And I tuned in, and that's when the fighter in me really surfaced. I stopped numbing myself with food, and instead, I Just put one foot in front of the other and stop fighting it. And instead, I started to listen to it. And that's when everything began to shift. Not all at once, but slowly, gently, and powerfully. I experienced not just a healing, but more importantly, a return. A return to what my parents and their parents and generations before them knew. That you are what you eat, that the earth holds the medicine, that our plates are sacred. You see, our grandparents' generation, they cooked with whole foods and fresh ingredients long before protein powders and supplements. They turned to herbs and spices for healing. So for example, ginger if you had a stomach ache, cerasee to cleanse the blood, turmeric to reduce inflammation, and cinnamon to balance blood sugar. And if you had a Jamaican grandmother, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you didn't, then you can borrow one of ours. They always have room at the table. And now science is finally catching up. So a 2023 study in the Journal of the American Medical Association revealed that poor diet is now the leading cause of early death worldwide. Meanwhile, a 2024 study in The Lancet shows that eating a plant-rich whole food diet can add up to 13 years of life expectancy and drastically heal the planet too. But here's the thing. Our ancestors, they didn't need studies. They had wisdom. And the further we stray away from that wisdom, the sicker we become. In fact, this is the first known generation predicted to die younger and live sicker than the generation before that. It's not just our bodies that are suffering physically, our minds are suffering too. In fact, there's a study in nutritional neuroscience that shows a direct link between diets that are high in processed food and refined sugar that has a direct link with depression, anxiety, and cognitive decline. I see it every day. So I run and operate a multi-location plant-based restaurant in Jamaica. And I see people every day who are seeking different things. They're seeking weight loss. They're seeking energy. They're seeking hope. Hope to feel themselves again. But what they're really seeking is reconnection. And I listen to their stories and their struggles, and I remember mine. And I realize so many of us are walking around thinking that we just haven't figured it out yet. That healing is far away and complicated and out of reach. And after years and years of studying nutrition and being in the wellness space, I'm here to tell you that healing is not complicated. It's not something that we have to figure out. It's just something that we have to return to. And with my studies and of course tuning into my ancestral wisdom, what I have found and realized is that healing starts in the gut, the belly, as my grandmother would say. I want you to imagine your gut like a garden, a lush, living, sacred ecosystem. And in this garden lives trillions of beneficial bacteria. These are your friendly bugs. They are tiny but mighty. They protect your immunity, they elevate your mood, they sharpen your mind, they manage your cravings, and they even influence your thoughts. And just like any thriving garden, they need lots of care and attention. When you really take the time to care and nourish your garden, the kind of healing that you will experience, you'll want to shout it from the mountaintops, just like I do every day. And I want to share 3 very powerful ways that you can heal and nourish your inner soil, just like I did. And I want to start with the most ancient, most powerful, most accessible, and probably the most overlooked medicine that we have. And that is the breath. Many of us walk around every day breathing shallow, just survival mode. And we're not accessing this very important medicine that we have. When we breathe deeply, what we do is activate our parasympathetic nervous system. And this sends a very powerful message to our body. The message is, you are safe. And once your gut feels safe, then that's when you can really, really heal. And so I want to share one of my favorite breathwork exercises. It's called the box breath. And I'd love for all of you to join me today. And it's really simple. You can do it right where you are. And you're just going to inhale for 4. You're going to keep that inhale for 4 counts. You're going to exhale for 4 counts. And then you're going to keep that steady as well. All right, so let's do that all together. 4 counts. Inhale deep. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 1, 2, 3. One more time. Inhale deep in through your nose. 3, 4. Hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4. And hold. 2, 3, 4. And any time that you are feeling maybe shaky about your health and you're confused about healing, just tap into that breath and you will see how safe and how accessible healing is just with that breath. The second point is with your diet. And regardless of what your diet is, we all need to eat more plants. All right, so you don't need to be vegan or vegetarian to have a vibrant gut, but you do need to eat lots and lots of different plants, so not the same plants over and over again. Why? Because our gut thrives on diversity. All right, and there's one of the largest studies done on the gut microbiome. It's the American Gut Project. And they studied over 10,000 individuals from all over the world. And what they found was really powerful. Those individuals that ate over 30 different plant foods for the week, they had a more diverse and resilient gut than those who ate 10 or fewer plants. And when those microbes are nourished with these different plants, you experience a healing just mentally, emotionally, and physically. And it's not as hard as you think. Let's try and make an Ital stew, right? A 1-pot meal quickly. All right, so we're gonna start with some callaloo or kale. We're going to add in some red peas or kidney beans. We're also going to add in some pumpkin, some broccoli, some coconut milk, some thyme, some scallion, some onion, some garlic, all right? Then maybe you'll have it with some quinoa, all right? I love quinoa. Then you're gonna maybe have it with some fresh vegetables, some lettuce, cucumber, tomatoes, carrots. You're already almost halfway there. Then maybe you make a smoothie the next day. You start with some spinach, you add in some ginger, add in some chia seeds. Right there, you already have that diversity that you need. So it's not as difficult as you think. I think sometimes we get really caught up with the different rules and the restrictions. You don't need to count macros, just add in more plants. And lastly, it's not just about what you add in, but it's also about what you crowd out. Because there are many, many things that make the soil toxic, right? And you can't have a thriving garden with toxic soil. And some of the worst top 4 soil killers, we already know a lot of them. Ultra-processed food, number 1. Refined sugars, number 2. Toxic oils that we cook with. And number 4, chronic stress. And all of these 4, they're highly addictive. But when we understand that they're destroying our gut microbiome, and not just the gut lining, they starve those beneficial bacteria that are fighting for us every day. And not only that, they also feed the harmful microbes. So they're really causing a lot of destruction for our health. So just like the point before, just keep it simple, read your labels, try to eat food that your grandmother would recognize, and just add in as much diversity and plant food as possible. Crowd out the bad stuff. And lastly, I'd just like to leave you with one of my favorite Jamaican proverbs, and that is, one cocoa, full basket. And that just means that just a little step goes a long way. You don't have to overhaul your diet all at once. Just take these small, consistent changes, one step, one meal, and one breath at a time. Thank you.